Happy October. We continue our Franciscan discernment. In the previous post, we looked at how St. Francis experiences unexpected awareness of the presence of God in his life while celebrating with his friends. This was God revealing his presence to Francis in the midst of everyday life. This is an invitation for us to daily reflect, examine, how, where, and with who, and when did I experience God? What feelings were associated with this experience, or what lack of feelings? Did I feel the absence of God in what I was doing, or who I was with? It is usually through the events of life that God manifests his will and gives us an opportunity to manifest ours. Human history is made up of external events. The deeper history that God writes in us is made up of our responses to events. Francis was born and lived in a time and place troubled by conflict. In his town of Assisi and Perugia, a neighboring city-state, there was violent conflict between the noble, wealthy class and the lower classes, the poor. In his protected noble class, Francis naively dreamt of becoming a knight, thinking that fighting in war and conflict would bring esteem, honor, and titles. He was a lousy knight. In his first battle, he was captured and imprisoned for a year in destitute conditions. He became very ill and returned rather disillusioned. After a long recovery of his health, he continued to dream of knighthood, of adventures of chivalry, and the life of a troubadour. Yet he was troubled and did sense an emptiness in his life. How many of us can relate to this? We have dreams, goals, hopes to achieve or accomplish something, and it just doesn't happen. Something gets in the way. Perhaps not enough money, or an illness, misunderstandings, or other responsibilities. Yet one knows in one's heart that this goal or desire would bring happiness or fulfillment. So we try again. Francis did this. He prayed for God to enlighten him, but he did not receive an answer. How many times does it seem like God is in the silent mode of our phone? I'm always careful when I go to chapel before lauds or vespers or mass to turn my phone on silent mode. However, it has happened more than once that I forget to turn it back on so that I can hear it. And then I wonder during much of the day why I don't hear it ring, why I missed calls. Francis continued following his ambition to become a knight. He set out with a group of young men from Assisi to join the Crusades. His dad, his father, was encouraging of this, proud of his son, because it would bring him more esteem and wealth to the business. These events would reveal how God would make his will known to Francis. It is always through the positive, negative, confusing, affirming, painful, and joyful events of our lives that God makes his will known to us. It is up to us to learn how to interpret them and follow the path God has us on. So Francis set out. He spared no expense to equip himself to look like a knight, for he was the son of a wealthy man. But his journey was a short one. God directed him in a different direction. Francis became ill, possibly a reoccurrence from his illness in prison. He had a dream. He hears a voice asking him, "Where do you want to go?" Francis answers, "To the war, to become a knight." The voice responds, "Now tell me, who is best able to serve you, the master or the servant?" In other words, how will you become successful? By doing what a coworker tells you, or by working with or for the CEO? Francis responds, "The master, the CEO." The voice in his dream continued, So why are you following the co-worker around? Francis recognizes that this is God directing him. He desperately pleads, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" The response he gets is, "Return to Assisi. There you will discover what to do." Francis struggled all night with the message of this dream. In the morning, got up, left the group, without worrying about the great humiliation he would encounter on returning to Assisi. He allowed God to reshape his dream of becoming an armed knight. Francis discovered that God was calling him to a different type of knighthood, the knighthood of divine love, of becoming the herald or the messenger of the great King. God does not want us to abandon our dreams, our goals, our desires. God wants us to realize them, or they would not be in our hearts in the first place. God is in love with the person you are and does not want you to become someone else. The key to self-realization is to discover that you share in God's divine nature and thus are filled with God's goodness. The Father wants us to discover with him the best way to follow our dreams, which is why it is essential to keep oneself vulnerable before God. It is about staying connected to God in his church and with others. It is about trusting that God wants the best for you. It is about waiting in faith and prayer, and recognizing that what seems to take us away from our dreams, illness, circumstances, responsibility, God will use to help us go deeper and lead us in ways unexpected. How is God the Father guiding you today in your deepest longings? May the Lord give you peace.